Got too many kids out there as it is.
You guys are live. Cool. All right, we're starting up.
Should maybe go turn that sound off.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the local vape channel. Thanks for setting out through our potato issues, trying to get this set up. Today we have Legion Vapes. You may know him from his reviews on YouTube or his I Am Vaping series. We'll get into a little bit of it all. But we appreciate your patience sitting here with us. And Legion, how are you doing today, man?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been a hectic morning trying to sort out your problems. But other than that, we're pretty good. Do with some more coffee.
And so just a little bit of background. If you don't know, Legion is actually in Australia. And he woke up early to help us out with this video. And we're going to delve into a little bit of who he is, what he's about, and the things that he does for the community. So if you don't mind, just a little bit of background about yourself and getting into vaping. And where did you start?
Where did I start? When did I start?
I guess when would be a better question.
When it's been about 4 years now. 30 plus year smoker. Started as a late teen, and yeah, I've talked about it before. But yeah, I was one of those heavy smokers. No matter what happened, smoking came before food, and I figured, I would never ever stop. Smoke till I die, and I was resigned to that. And stumbled across a news article about vaping. I live in the middle of nowhere, so I hadn't seen anything like that. And I thought, yeah, okay, well, whatever, we'll give it a try. Ordered a kit, ordered some juice, and I think within the first 2 or 3 puffs, I started just cleaning up my cigarette stuff and throwing it out. It's like, this is going to work. This is fine. This is it. And haven't smoked a single cigarette since.
Nice.
Which is nice. And yeah, hopped onto YouTube, saw other people doing stuff, saw Grim Green and Dean the Vaping Biker, big inspirations there. And went, you know what? I could do this. I could do this. I could, I didn't know about this. I didn't know this was there. And I think I could help let people know. This was amazing to me. This blew me away that I could actually quit. I never ever thought that it would ever possibly happen. And I wanted to share that idea and help people. So, it took a little while, took my time to learn a few things about the industry. And yeah, it's been almost 3 years on YouTube now, and we're going gangbusters.
And you just actually hit, what was it, 35,000 this year, yeah? Not too long ago, subs on your channel.
Yeah, 35,000 a little while ago. Fingers crossed for 40 by Christmas. That's nice. My goal.
And so, like you said, you picked up vaping, and then you almost immediately knew that you wanted to quit. If you don't mind me asking, what was the flavor or the juice that you started with that really changed it for you?
Oddly enough, Sanctuary from Atom Bomb.
Really?
It was the first premium liquid I bought. I bought a 30 mil. We got a Nautilus setup actually for the wife, and I got it was a Horizon Tech sub. No, it was a Crown. It was a UL Crown was my first sub-ohm tank. And we mixed and matched. The sub-ohm didn't work for me at all, but as soon as I got that big, deep, flavorful cloud in my lungs and I blew out, I was like, that's freaking awesome. That feels great. That tastes so nice. Oh, and then boom, literally, it was a switch. Of course, I've always been a sci-fi fan. I've always been a big, Star Trek and stuff like that. So, a little device with buttons that replaces smoking, and it all just really worked for my mentality. It was like, this is the future of smoking. I feel so high tech.
You were able to immerse yourself in more of this, the need for cessation, but also like a hobby as well, which I think is something that keeps a lot of people vaping because they can actually do something more than picking up like someone's just like a pack of cigarettes and lighting one up. You get to immerse yourself into it. So
I've said that all along. Addiction is not just a chemical reaction. It's all about habits. It's all about motivation, why you're doing it. It's all about the little rituals that you build around it and replacing the millions of rituals. I used to date a woman, and every single pack of cigarettes, she'd take out the first one, turn it upside down. It was her wish smoke. And that would be the last one smoked in the pack. And it was just her little ritual. And I think millions of people do something similar to that. But we find ways to amuse ourselves in life. And if you're going to drop so much, you've got to replace it with things, whether it's coil building or collecting mods or polishing shiny chrome or brass smack mods, whatever it is. You've got to find ways to fill your hands, fill your time, and replace it. So, yeah, vaping, that's why vaping works. I mean, there's no fun sticking a patch on your shoulder and walking out the door. You know, it answers the smallest part of the addiction, just the chemical side. It doesn't give us stuff to do with our hands. So,
and I think that's why if you like the numbers, you'll notice a lot of people are stop smoking. You can't say it's directly attributed to vaping, but a lot of people stop and they switch over to vaping because it keeps you busy. It's something that you can do. You can immerse yourself in it, and that's why it creates the culture that we have, and that's why we have like these channels and people like you doing this, and that's why a lot of people will look negatively at us because of the misinformation going around. But it's a community, you know, it's a thing. You actually can share stuff. Not that you wouldn't smoke socially, but now you can vape socially and learn something at the same time.
well, I think the thing is that the anti-vaping forces, as they are, tend to be very puritanical, and the concept that we can continue to enjoy ourselves. I can enjoy flavors. I can enjoy the feeling of vaping. I can enjoy that hand-to-mouth action, and I can have a little collection hobby and all that sort of stuff. They really dislike those concepts. You know, you have to suffer. You're an evil smoker. You must suffer now and get rid of all the fun in your life. And I don't see why we need to do that. If I've gotten rid of 95% or more of the damage, I'm taking care of my health, I've quit damaging people around me, why can't I enjoy myself a little bit with some tasty liquids and some fun devices, you know? There's
And
nothing wrong with a little bit of fun.
that's the thing I noticed too. A lot of these places, like you said, Puritan, like, you know, influences and stuff like that. A lot of people will throw that whole just quit thing out there. And I feel like a lot of the negativity that we see from these people is more of a projection of themselves than actually what this is actually used for and what we do it
Yeah.
for. And
Well, it's all about controlling other people's mindsets. I mean, you see those people go, well, there's nothing good about vaping. I mean, obviously the best thing is to just breathe pure air. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Do you eat processed food? Do you
yeah,
drink tea, coffee, alcohol? Just water, right? Nothing is as good for your body as pure water. Anything else is just wrong. No, of course they're hypocrites. They
yeah.
enjoy themselves in their aspects of life. Why can't we?
It's definitely a high horse situation and scenario with a lot of these things, especially like these initiatives and these groups that do these ads and saying this brain poison and all this stuff with no actual facts behind it. And so that's why we like to do these videos and get in the community with this stuff, because this is a message we need to spread, is that there are benefits for it. We don't want the average person that's never smoked before to pick up a vape. We want to help suscitate the smokers that want to quit and make a positive change with a healthiher lifestyle. So it's definitely an
Absolutely.
uphill battle with that. And so with that, I'll get into my next point. Your Ion Vaping series that you do, if you're in the chat or if you follow Legion, you've seen it before. We spoke on this before we went live. Your approach to it's a little bit different than a lot of people. You'll see a lot of people come on here and say, oh, like, blah, blah, the world's in it, everything's on fire. But instead, with what you do, which I'd like to applaud you for, is you come in with like a more of a journalistic aspect to share facts and things like that. And so instead of me rambling on, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'd always wanted to do some sort of advocacy element to my channel, but trying to jam that into a review for another product always felt a bit ingenuous and forced. And I figure that if someone wants to come and see a review about this, they don't want to listen to me talk about advocacy for 20 minutes. So it took a while to get comfortable with the idea and to figure out how I wanted to do it. And the ion vaping concept popped into my head. I could just report on the news. I've got enough viewers now. I've got enough traction that I could actually just do something like that. And I have to admit, again, quite inspired by Grim Green and some of the efforts that he did, which sadly he's stopped doing that show. But yeah, I just figured, whatever's happened in the last week, whether it's good or negative news, let's comment a bit about it. And if I can point people towards, some of the things that they could do to help. And so far, it's been mostly bad news, unfortunately. But yeah, like I said, I try to stay journalistic. I'm not going to be, conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, yelling and screaming, except for occasionally. But yeah, I try to point about what's going on out there, and I view it the same way that I do my reviews. I don't spiel off all the figures. I'll throw them on the screen, but I don't need to tell you what the resistance range of a device is. I need to tell you how it feels in my hand, whether it's good uh, in function, whether it's pretty, whether it feels nice and is good to use. I'm more of an experiential opinion reviewer than a hardcore technical reviewer. Nothing against those that do that side of things. That's why
But
there's so many of us. But I viewed ion vaping the same way. I report on what's happening, and then I kind of give my feelings, my opinions. This is making me angry. I don't understand why you would ban this when this is happening in your state, for example, that kind of thing. And same thing at the end, just kind of point people to maybe a little bit of something they could do about it. Write to your governor and tell her she needs to pull her head out, that kind of thing.
and that's the best part about it. If you guys haven't seen it yet, you gotta check out the Ion vaping series that he does. It's a very humble approach to it, and it's not an emotional reaction. It's a proactive approach. You actually provide ways that people can do things differently instead of just saying, "Oh, everyone's heads cut off like chickens running around like crazy." Because a lot of people will share stuff like that. And it's okay to have an emotional reaction because that's normal. We're humans. But then again, if you're gonna do something like that, try to provide some kind of answer, which is what you do with that. So I want to thank you for doing that for the community. And then,
Thank you.
it's pretty awesome, especially because the fact that you do this on your own time. You don't get paid to do this. You're not sponsored by companies to do this, or you're not being monetary funded and stuff like that. I take back the sponsor things. I want to speak about the THR that you got for your Iron Vaping series, which, if you guys don't know, if you wouldn't mind get into it a little bit.
So I completely misunderstood that question.
So
Throw it at me again.
with your Ion Vaping series, you're talking about the
Oh, when I said in the last video, this video is sponsored by THR.
Yeah, and so if a
That
lot of people
was
don't know what THR is, if you wouldn't mind.
okay. So that was actually kind of my joke. Of course, I'm not sponsored. There's no monetary input. THR, of course, is tobacco harm reduction, and it's what this is all about. I mean, it's not 100% safe. We know it's not 100% safe. We've never lied about that. We've never pulled our blinders over about that. It's got potential risk, but it is at least 95% safer than smoking, and it's all about doing less damage, doing less harm to ourselves. It's harm reduction. So I just kind of wanted to specifically in that video to point out, THR. That's why we do what we're doing. This is not for smoking weed, and this is not for teens to pick up as a fun new bubblegum flavored hobby, which is what the ants are saying it's about. It's about doing less damage and finding a way for smokers to transition off traditional combustible tobacco to a less harmful, safer. I have been accused a number of times over the last couple of weeks in comments that I am promoting it as safe. And I actually saw the Michigan governor say that we are marketing this as safe. And it just blew my mind. I can't think of any company that's ever gone out and said, this is 100% harmless. You should vape. No one has ever said that. No one's ever marketed it as a safe choice to do. It's a safer. It's always got to be looked at in comparison to actually smoking. Sure, if you're 14, 15, you shouldn't be vaping. It's not safer than not vaping, but it is safer than smoking. And I know the damage I did to myself as a smoker, and I'm so glad to have found, a viable alternative to at least reduce some, if not most of that. So,
And that's the thing too, is like if you see people out there saying that it's a safe thing or it's safe and all that stuff, that's something that if any of us do that, you got to stop saying that. You got to say it's safer, because when you say that, it gives them ammunition against us, because they're saying that, like Legion was saying, like you're trying to market it as a safe product, and it's not about being safe. It's about harm reduction.
just want to respond to something. Raven in the comments has asked, "What are my thoughts of people who deal with mental illness using vaping over smoking cigarettes?" That is actually an awesome question, and it's the little crack in the armor that we have. We always have to say publicly our thing is that this is for smokers. This is for smokers. This isn't for never smokers. And I find a lot of people in forums and that attack people when they say, "I've picked up vaping. I never smoked." And the thing is, as adults, we need to kind of respect their decision, because the fact is that smoking has been a self-medication choice for people with a variety of mental issues for decades and decades now. It's got a high prevalence in people with so many issues, and there's good reasons for that. It is a calming substance. There is medical research showing that it assists in neurological functions such as Alzheimer's and MS a little bit. So and as well as depression, of course, schizophrenia. So if someone's got issues and they have chosen to self-medicate, it's one of those things that people do without almost consciously knowing why. Something attracts them. Just like when you have a craving and you realize later that you needed protein, that's why you crave steak.
Yeah.
You kind of have a craving for smoking. You see it and you want to do it because you realize it's going to answer a need that your body has. It's going to calm you down or something. And yeah, in those cases, extreme anxiety, depression, etc. If someone feels that urge, I'd always much rather see them, jump up on vaping than on smoking, because yeah, 95% safer. Why wouldn't you? So I'm never one to attack someone. If I hear someone say, "I was never a smoker, but I've taken up vaping," as long as they're an adult, as long as they're of age and they're not making the industry look bad, I'm never going to be the one to jump down their throat and start attacking them and saying, "Well, you shouldn't do it." Uh, my general assumption is there's some reason there, something that's calling them towards it.
That brought them towards it. And that's another thing too that a lot of people don't realize with like what we're going against with our industry, and everyone's saying like, oh, we can't just quit and things like that. You've got to also respect personal decisions to do things. There are people out there that still want to smoke, and they're going to smoke to the day they die. And if that's the choice they want to make, and if they have a better option before and they didn't pursue it or they didn't want to, that's their choice. And that's what we're fighting right now, is the fact to have the choice to be able to choose the vape instead of smoking cigarettes. So if someone does do something like that, it's not up to us to go and attack them for it, but to maybe understand why they picked it up or they ended up doing it as well.
Well, absolutely. There's no reason why we need to be horrible to people. Let them make their own choices, and we want the freedom to make our own choices.
And that's the amazing thing about it, is if we all come together, we can make this change happen. To address the chat, David Moultram was talking about in the UK, local health authority has a smoking cessation program targeting mental health users, which actively promotes the use of e-cigs, which is awesome that you actually have over there in the UK, which is such a broad difference than what we have in most of the rest of the world, where politicians, hospitals, things like that, my focus is going out, to where it's being derogatorily talked about by our health people here. But in the UK, we have hospitals popping, but they have hospitals popping up with vapes, and the hospitals are actually giving them away to clients and customers, but patients, to stop smoking. And it's a huge thing that if the whole country can come together to realize that, hopefully that'll bleed more into where we're at with this, because it's a health issue.
I think it really does highlight the difference in the social structure between the two countries. In America, you've got the MSA, which is feeding cash, like bucket loads of cash into the states, and your health insurance is privatized. So there's absolutely no incentive to promote this as a safer alternative. In fact, it's more of an incentive for states to get rid of vaping, and this is what we're seeing. Whereas in Britain, things are very different. There's no MSA, there's no cash influx to the state from tobacco companies, and the state is responsible for the welfare of the citizens. They pay for it out of their own pockets. So it's definitely a much better situation. Here in Australia, we've got sort of a middle ground, because we have a similar sort of healthcare system. We are state sponsors, private or not private, public healthcare. But we've got some, it's not MSA, but we've got some cash flowing into the government from the tobacco companies. And at the same time, we have a couple of individuals who are in charge of the legalization of nicotine in this country who stand steadfastly against it, simply because they seem to want to follow the American standard. I can't think of any other reason why. All the evidence is on their desk. It's there for them, and they just kind of push it away. They don't want to look at it because they want to follow the American standard that's been set for them and prove themselves somehow.
Which is terrible
Hopefully,
because I get it that, being a large country like we are, especially with the media influence that we have, a lot of people try to model things off of ours because of things they see in TVs or movies and stuff like that. But you see it in movies and TV shows because it's not real.
mm,
And so,
well, hopefully things with New Zealand will be a guiding light for us. Apparently, we don't follow Britain anymore, but New Zealand is a close neighbor, and they're doing some awesome, awesome things. So hopefully that will, in time, change things here.
from the chat, we got Drake. I can't pronounce the last name, so I won't chop it up. He says, Legion, what do you think Juul and the other companies that are associated with the tobacco industry kind of bring a different view to non-vapors as far as like the community, I'm assuming is what he's asking?
I am really on the shelf about that. Um, it's a tricky situation. We have what we have here is a consumer created industry. We have created these products ourselves. We have created e-liquids ourselves. We have had them manufactured, and eventually these manufacturing companies started making their own products in China and a couple in the States, et cetera. But it's a grassroots sort of a movement. It's not created by big corporations. And so on that, that's something we could always be proud of, that we found a solution to our own problem, and it's a good solution, and now we're steaming ahead. Uh, but on the other hand, since then we've seen big tobacco start to buy in. They're co-opting what is essentially ours. I don't blame them. I can totally understand. There's an end point. There's a finite lifespan for a tobacco company to be what it always has been. So they've got to find some other way. And as I've always said to people, giant multinational billion-dollar corporations don't just stop and go home. They're never going to just stop. There's too much money involved. They're going to find some way in. Um, I see great potential for them to wield the power of their money in our favor. I am very, very frightened that when they do so, they will close off all options and all we can do is buy from them. Closed pod systems and closed pod systems only is definitely not the way forward. I'm open system all the way. I'm not against closed. They're convenient for new people, but we've got to keep some balance. So, like I said, I'm on the fence with this. So it's a bit tricky. Juul specifically, yeah, I've defended them in the past, and I think that those days are over. I don't think I'll be defending them much anymore. Um, I held out hope that they would eventually see the light and join us and be part of a community. And it's become quite obvious that they don't want to be part of a community. They want to own the community. And yeah, enough said about that.
And so then on to the next point I got from you. You were saying that before when you first started getting into vaping, you started with a sub ohm. What would be like the first thing that you switched over to when you got into rebuildables and stuff like that, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, well, the very, very first rebuildable I got was the Watofo Troll version 2, which was right at the early days of what do you call it, velocity decks taking over, which was, I still love the velocity deck. It's such a simple, beautiful deck to build on. It's really, really easy to work with. It's got a couple of issues in terms of, if you're dealing with bigger, fatter coils, etc. But the Troll was such a mind-blowingly beautiful vape for me to go from sub-ohm tanks, and I had 4 or 5 by that point, but to go straight onto an RDA with a great big massive drip tip on top. It's bigger than an 810. It was massive, and a lot of airflow, and yeah, it was just it was a really, really nice device. I actually kept using it even after I started reviewing, and I did reviews of all sorts of other stuff. Every time I came back to a coil building review, I kept pulling out the coil. It's like, this is the one I'm building on. This is what you're going to see. I've still got it sitting up on my good shelf. It's one of the things I prize. I'll never get rid of it. Probably do a retro vaping on it one day.
That'd be cool too, like a throwback. Because to be completely honest with you, if you guys don't know me, I haven't been in the vape world for too long. I've only been vaping and a part of the industry for 2 years, so that'd be good for people that are coming in to learn a little bit about the the foundation of what got you into it, and
I
start.
actually said something a little bit wrong. I said that my first sub on was UL Crown, and that's not true. My first vape setup, the full kit, was the Kangertech Top Box Mini. So I have the whatever the top box sub ohm tank that came in there. It didn't last. It had an issue and it died fairly fast. And I was lucky to be able to borrow one from a friend and then replace it with other things. But I can't find one. I can't find one these days at a reasonable price. I'm not going to spend 180 bucks for it, but if I could get my hands on one these days, just for the museum, and
Yeah,
yeah, I would love to do that. This is the device that worked for me. My retro vaping, the first device that I ever used, a black Kangertech Talk Box Mini.
awesome.
They were
And,
they were they were great devices. I liked it.
yeah, I started out with a basic minikin and a smoke tank. I never could pronounce it right, and it was good to start out with. But man, that thing bleeds.
Yeah. Well, the Kangertech had a problem with the 510 pin, and this is the start of my learning. Is like I was using it for like 3 or 4 days, and I was off the cigarettes. I was done. It was great, and yeah, there was an issue with the 510 connection in the mod, and it would read 9.99 ohms because that's the error code for that one. You can't read it. It's 9.99, and you should have seen me panicking though. It's like I only have one vape and I have no vape. I have juice, I have coil, I have no vape. Why won't it work? And I'm on the internet and I'm hunting down YouTube and I'm looking, and I put a thing out on Facebook, and like I said, luckily a friend lent me, I can't even remember what it was, some device to get me through while I desperately went online and ordered 2 devices, and then the next week ordered 2 more, and that was the start of it. It's like one is never going to be enough. There must always be backups and backups for the backups, and then that's kind of why I got into the coil building. It's like, never mind price or anything. It's just that I will always have a couple of mechanical mods. I will always have wire. I will always have a couple of screwdrivers and some cotton. And if I can't, I'll go to the makeup store. I'll get some cotton. I can vape. I can keep going no matter what happens. As
Keep
long
it
as I don't
alive.
run out of juice.
Vapors Odyssey said in the chat he passed his first RDA, the Phobia 2, to a friend that was interested about RDAs and he loves it. And that's a cool thing about this community too, is that you can actually collect a bunch of stuff and stuff you're not going to use, you can share. And I've experienced that personally with this industry and this community, having people share things with me that have helped me better or things I didn't like, but we can share things with each other and then help each other, get to the next step of whether you want to get into builds or do anything like that, which would be like personally my next step, because I'm pretty a functional vapor as far as if it works for me, that's about all I'm going to do is stick to it, which is okay. But also it doesn't hurt to experience a little bit of it all.
It doesn't hurt, but I think it's vital. I think probably most of the people viewing now, they probably build, but it's something that as a community we need to kind of address and change. Whatever anyone likes, that's cool. If it's a pod system and that's all you want to do, you're a vapor in my eyes. If you build, that's cool. And if you've tried building and you went, I can't get wicking, I'm just going back to my, that's cool. Whatever you want to vape on, that's cool with me. You're not smoking, you're a vapor. There should be no judgment. We've thankfully some of this has died off in the last year or so, but used to be this whole divide between regulated and mech mods and builders and sub ohm tanks, and we're starting to see some of that resurface with pod systems and people not having more respect for them. But like I said, I don't care what you use. I will review every single vape item that comes through my door. It's valid. If you will use it instead of cigarettes, it's valid. It's a good device. And if you have no interest, absolutely no interest in it's not moving up. It's moving on to something else. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to build. You don't have to master sub-ohms and ohm law and mech mods to be a vapor. That doesn't make you more hardcore.
Yeah.
There's no merit badges for moving up the ranks, you know.
Just cool Instagram feeds and the speak on the pod thing just real fast and then answer a question from the chat. People gotta understand being out of pods and stuff like that. Like you said, the hardcore people that get all mad because you didn't build or you weren't using mechs and stuff like that. It's about having a device that can help someone that's not into those kind of things, and it's a springboard into maybe getting deeper into the community. But if not, it's gonna help them stop smoking. So there needs to be this cool kids club and all that stuff. It's gotta stop.
Yeah.
But for the chat, we got from Breezestone says, as someone who sees the latest stuff all the time, what do you want to see progress as far as with technology?
Two things I'd like to see. Look, we've gotten to the point where chips aren't going to get that much better. There's going to be small refinements, etc. Battery life will improve. Hopefully, we'll get some better batteries over time, like better produced, wrapped, safer batteries. But chips aren't going to get that much better. So a lot of what's come out in the last year, a lot of it's to do with aesthetics and a little bit of innovation, such as the top side and stuff like that. I'd like to see the people who are designing these chipsets and these mods realize, like do some research. If you are making a device and you're putting all that time and money into the chipset, go out and find out how many people are actually using temp control. Okay, I'm not saying get rid of temp control, but I don't think every mod needs temp control. I don't think something I always praise when it comes through, because I don't really care. Variable voltage is fine, bypass is fine, wattage is fine. Keep it simple. If a mod is simple and streamlined, that's always a big con in my book, because especially when they get these newer people, they get their pod system, they vape for a while, then they get a pen, it's got a single button, and then they move to a mod and they're looking at, oh man, and they look at the manual and it's like, there's so much in here. It's like a computer. What? They put it down and they go back to their pod system. Whereas something like the double barrel, it's just so straightforward and simple. I love a simple, clean interface with, basically turn it up, turn it down, and tell me what my resistance is. Tell me where my batteries are. That's all I need. So that's one of the things I'd like to see. And the other thing, it kind of saddens me, but Grim Green came out with his goat a little while ago, and it made it splash, and there was so much hatred from builders, and I think they just didn't understand.
It's for people like me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with pre-built coils, and this was a step above sub-ohm coils. It allowed people to be able to move into an RDA type experience, better flavor, better clouds, the ability to re-wick, which you can't do with a sub-ohm coil. So you get much more lifespan out of it. I would love to see, I know it's his baby and everything. I would have loved to have seen that just spread like wildfire. I would have loved to see that become like the Velocity was. I would have loved to see every new RDA be able to remove the deck, plop in a goat deck, pull it up, put in my builder deck, just as a standard. That would have been beautiful. That way we would have had so much more options for people with hand issues, eyesight issues, people that were newer and like, maybe I'll get into building later, but right now this comes with two coils. I'll re-wick them, and sort of ease their way in. The goat was an awesome idea that I think should have been adopted as an open standard. I still stand by it. I gave it a great review, and I would love to see. I'd love to see that come back.
Yeah, especially for my personal aspect. That's what I use daily, every day, all day is the goat, and I love it because it made me feel like I was getting closer to RDAs, to where you could be rebuilt and stuff like that. I know what I use the pre-built coils with the cotton and all that stuff. It made it a lot easier to be able to get to that level from sub-ohms and stuff like that. And I just couldn't stand seeing people talk about something like that when it benefited me greatly from staying off of cigarettes and doing that, because it was so easy to use. And then now, like next week, I was planning on getting the rebuildable deck and start teaching myself how to install stuff. And people need to stop talking crap about something that helps other people.
There's an awful lot of that in this community, where people just have no respect for stuff that's not for them. It's like, well, that's too small. It's only got an 18650 battery. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Plenty of people still mouth along. Plenty of people vaping on 30 watts. That device is not for you. It's not aimed at you. So why the hell are you complaining about it? Let
And
the
especially
people who like it enjoy it.
and
You know,
especially if you're not going to use it, you're not going to have a good opinion on it because you don't know how it's going to work for you.
I saw a post the other day. Guy pulled out his first mech mod. He was really happy with it, and he had the Dead Rabbit RTA on top, and he showed a picture of it, and it was just this stream of comments of people who hate that RTA. No one even commented on the mech mod. That was the point of the post. It was like, he likes it. He's happy with it. Shut the hell up. Leave him alone. Just because you don't like it. Like the same thing goes with this beast, the Blotto. You know, there are comments out there from people who like it. There are comments from people who don't. If it doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean it's bad. You know, yes, it's a bit more restrictive than you would expect for this size and appearance of device. If you find that, put it on the shelf, grab what you like, and move on. You don't need to back it out in every picture. Just automatically attack. Well, that's a horrible art. No, it's not. It's just not for you. And I think that's right there. Just what I'm saying. That's always something that I keep in mind when I'm reviewing when I do my videos. I always got to keep in mind that even if I'm not totally into something, of course I'm going to rave about the things I like, but I try to be as balanced and as fair. You know, I give a pod system as much effort or at least as much praise as anything else, even if I'm not going to continue using it on a day-to-day basis. This one, oddly enough, I have really been enjoying. More about that next week. But yeah, I mean, you got to look at things on a balanced level. I mean, just because it's not for you doesn't mean it's a bad device. Just because I think something but ugly doesn't mean it's a bad device. It's aesthetics aren't for me. You
Yeah.
know, you gotta, yeah. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
So then I guess we're coming to the end of the stream. If anyone's got any more questions, we'll be happy to address them before we close out. But yeah, just to recap, thank you for coming on. I know it was an early morning for you, seeing how you're in Australia. So, and the potato-ness that we had when we first tried to start the stream. So we appreciate you guys sticking through with it. Otherwise, yeah, check out his channel, Legion Vapes on YouTube, and check out some reviews. Check out his I Am Vaping series. Get into advocacy, and everything he does is, this is my personal opinion, unbiased, and there's nothing on there to where like anything's derogatory. Like he just explained, if it's not for him, he'll explain that, but he'll also explain the benefits of those who it will benefit. I said that like 3 times in a row. So.
Just before we go, I want to comment. David Mottram says, I was really into hardcore punk and stuff as a kid. Vaping reminds me a lot of the regimented posturing you would see in that scene at the times. Absolutely. I totally remember there was always a segment of any subculture that became very rigid. I was the kid as a teen that would go to the goth clubs, and I would go and dress all in white just to stand out and just to go. I enjoyed the music. I loved the dancing. It was a great environment, but I liked dressing all in black. But that night, all in white, because screw that. I'm not living up to anyone else's standards. I do it my way.
And that's the thing too with the industry. Well, I do feel like vaping, as far as like smoking and stuff like that, is very fucking punk rock. Oh, I should have swore, so I apologize. Vaping is very punk rock to the degree of like you're going against the grain, the system that's been institutionalized with smoking and all this stuff, where it's either you smoke or you quit and you stop. But then again, when you get into the group, like we were talking about earlier, you have the people that are the cool kids club and the ones that'll judge you once you get in there. We need to be a community, come together, support each other, and get to that, and just share our experiences, and hopefully it helps someone else along the way.
Well, that's the thing. You're gonna find that if you go into a Facebook groups or on Instagram, you'll find so many people saying, "Wow, it's my 1 year vaporversary. I feel so much better, and I can't believe the community that I found and the people that helped me out." Something you hear over and over, and it's actually really really cool to go into a vape group. Some of them can be a bit dodgy, but you find a good one, and there are 50-year-olds like me, and there are 65-year-old housewives, and there's 23-year-old bass players. I don't know how old Otto is, but I'm just going to assume he's 23. But there's just so many people of different ilks and different lifestyles coming together as a community in a way that you don't often see uh, in the rest of the world. You never saw smokers all just, well, we all smoke, so let's all band together. But as vapors, we've all got each other's back. We should all have each other's back because, yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's nothing against the community, but I do feel like we could do better.
Definitely.
And so no one's really throwing any questions in the chat, so I guess we'll close it out at this. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate you. Make sure you guys check out his channel. Information from top to bottom, whether it's from specs to mods to advocacy, community, and everything. So thank you guys for coming on. Legion, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And then you guys have a great night and a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.